Okay, first up on our agenda, next up on is public comment. That's time for the public to make comments to the Board of Commissioners. And I will call for comments. If there are some, then I'll just explain the rules. If not, I won't. So we'll start with anybody in the room. Is there anybody in the room that would like to make a public comment? Is there anybody on Zoom who would like to make a public comment? Please raise your hand. Anybody now?
No.
All right. We'll move on. Consideration adoption of the agenda.
Chair, we are going to pull off item 6D. That was a request that was coming in for a grant, for approval to submit for a grant, but we found out that the information that was being provided, we actually have a carve out, so we don't have to apply for it. So we're just going to plan on, we're not sure on the timing of it, whether it'll hit fiscal year 27 or fiscal year 28. So we'll hold off and take action with the board when we have full determination on that.
That's 60, right?
60.
Okay.
I'd move for approval with the removal of item 60.
I hear a second.
I second.
Moving second to adopt the agenda with that correction. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, we'll jump into our department reports, and we'll start with the sheriff's report. Brian, under sheriff.
Morning.
Good morning.
I don't know if it's that good, but it's a morning.
Well, maybe it can be good for me.
I hope it is.
Thank you.
Things at the sheriff's office are going well. Not a whole lot to report. We are in backgrounds to fill our last dispatcher position and the one opening that we have in patrol. That background is completed. He accepted our offer and he will start June 1st, which we are happy. Unfortunately, yesterday I received another resignation letter, so effective June 2nd. So come June 2nd, we will have another opening. So that the cycle continues. All of our programs, OHV, Marine, and such are up and running. So far, everything's running pretty smoothly. Our projects that we got approved for for this budget are all but one are completed. The only one that is not completed is the command truck overhaul that we received that generous donation from Amazon for, and that's going to be a long process. We're not expecting it to be done anytime soon because that's just it's a major overhaul on that. But all of the other projects, including the dispatch projects, the search and rescue, and the firearm project, those are all completed. So the invoices will be coming in quickly, I hope, because the projects are completed. That's about all I got today. It's just kind of been business as normal. So any questions or anything I could maybe add?
No, I mean, I'm glad to hear things are going smooth.
Overall, yes, I am too. Thank you.
Any questions, Jeff?
Nope. No, thank you, Brian.
Thank you very much. Okay, next up, Steve, is he online? No. And the next up would be our planning department for camera. Oh, we have. Please.
Good morning, commissioners.
Good morning.
Chair Sykes, County Commissioner Jensen. I'm here today sitting in for Tamara, who is currently over in Pendleton. She is attending the Oregon Energy Policy Academy and over there at the casino, and it's a 2-day meeting. So she's asked me to step in and give an update on what's been happening this last month in the planning department. And it is busy. First on the list, Planning Commission held a public hearing April 28th First on the list was a hearing for the proposed county comprehensive plan and zoning ordinance amendment to the TSP for the Tower Road Interchange Area Management Plan, or IAMP adoption. The hearing was open to consider the comments that we received were very serious in nature. So the Planning Commission elected to continue the hearing for staff to review the comments and for more public comment. The next meeting of the Planning Commission is scheduled for June 30th, and that will be over at Hebner at 6 p.m. To further the public hearing and consider those comments in regards to the IMP. Also on the Planning Commission docket was a work session to discuss the issues regarding commercial trucking and parking issues in North County primarily. And it was a good discussion. The meeting was well attended by both truckers as well as residential folks from the community, and they voiced their concerns about commercial trucking, and staff presented a couple of options, and the Planning Commission will meet again to further discuss those issues. And we think we have some options, viable options for those folks that are needing to park their trucks, and a couple of the options concerning updating the code to allow consideration for those parking issues. Next on our update, the energy update, MN8 solar project. We expect to receive an application early June. The project proposal, the applicants decided to go the route of county review instead of FSEC. The state recently allowed them to make a decision or choice, and they elected to go with the county. And staff has been in close contact with them for this last month, and it looks like to be a really good project. And so we're looking forward to reviewing that and having that come up for this board at a later time. The next project that we're looking at is a Sunstone Solar project with Umatell Electric Cooperative. And that's the Pioneer Switch. We're taking a look at that for land use approval and review. Pacific Core is also looking at their main transmission line. There is a long process of public review by law, and state requires that they have a public outreach for the next 6 months. So that's ongoing for that major transmission line. Again, Tamara is currently attending the Oregon Energy Policy Academy, and they're going to be dealing with their 4 Ps, as she likes to call it: planning, permitting, paying, and participation. And so it's very timely given all the projects here in the county. So she's looking forward to that. Next on the list is the Columbia River Heritage Trail Concept Plan Update. Staff is currently looking at that, and we're working with the Army Corps of Engineers regarding their concerns about any projects that might go off the trail, and some of their review on that, because they are the jurisdiction there that reviews this. And so we've got a good rapport going on with them. So we look forward to some good projects along that trail. It's a pretty exciting project. We're gonna have to walk it though, so I gotta get my walking shoes and
Yeah.
get limbered up to do that. There's a couple of us there staff that are gonna have some fun doing that. Gonna bring our snake bite kit to go along with that. Steve from our GIS mapping, he's doing a lot of drone projects We have some projects there for some potential gravel pits as well as some other land use activities, and he's doing a really good job with his good planning tool, the drone. And so we look forward to his efforts there. He's been also working on updating the rural addressing ordinance and procedures. So he's going through a process now, looking for comments from the different agencies that participate in this. Caitlin continues to work with code compliance and issues there. That's an ongoing, everyday process. She does a really good job with that. Tamara's also working and staff on the water and planning activities, water advisory committee, looking at initiatives either through the comprehensive planning updates, the county drinking water program efforts, and we really support regional planning efforts to try to come to mitigate some of those issues. Let's see. Further along, again, we mentioned the Tower Road Interchange Area Management Plan, and again, the Planning Commission will bring that up again here later next month. Next on the items of importance, Transportation System Plan, TSP. Staff is participating on working with that through the end here, and we're looking forward to working with the communities here to bring forth that plan and updating that. Another item that's come up is with the Department of the Navy. They've contacted us to work with them through a grant proposal initiative. And on the list that we might be able to take a look at is the wildfire issues surrounding the property there, and looking at mitigation measures to implement a plan for around that property there at the bombing range. And so we're working again with the members of the working with the Navy out of Woodby Island, and that's kind of held back there because of the recent incidents regarding some of the flights crashes that they work with out of that area. But that'll be commencing here in the next month or two, and we'll be submitting a scope of work for potential projects, grant funds from them. Staff is also looking at developing some talking points for informing the public in regards to large industrial development projects. There's concerns from some of the public on if you're getting potentially a large industrial project located in your neighborhood, what are their rights and what is the process the county planning staff looks at through the code, the state requirements. So we like to inform the public on those issues, and we will have further outreach for the public on that in the next month or so, and come up with some good slide program and information or town hall opportunities for informing the public on the issues and how staff looks at permitting those projects, because we like to be transparent and we like to get the job done. And it's not always easy. It's sometimes confusing about some of the state laws and code. And so we want to be very clear to the folks and give them their opportunities to participate in the land use process. Also, Tamara is working with the Data Center Advisory Committee. That's through the state. She's on that committee through Land Conservation Development Department Commission. She provides some pretty good input. She provides a perspective of the east side of the mountains. They're a lot different than the west side because we're dealing with a lot of larger projects versus smaller projects for data center development on the west side. The other item that's been pretty exciting really is the Rural Energy Academy. We have staff members here as well as Commissioner Peterson, and we've received some very good discussions from different parts of this country. Various stages they're going through data center development and large energy project development, and it's good to hear where they're at. And looks, by all accounts, Morrow County is kind of leading the way in many aspects on permitting, and as well as discussions on incentives and what those large projects can help out with the communities. So it's been very good, and we have a homework assignment, I guess, in another week or two. We have to not have to, but we've been requested to present our perspective from Morrow County and what we would like to see and what we've learned. So we look forward to that. Those are some of the highlights. If you have questions, I think I can answer a few.
I got a question on the governor's advisory committee on the data center. This report that she made up, was that a report that she gave to the committee, or is that just for us?
She gave that to the committee.
Did now her what was her position on that?
I think they just asked for her to be involved, given that Morrow County has a lot of experience with data centers, and they wanted an east side land use planner perspective.
I mean, was she a representative? I know Dan Doran was appointed to be on that. I just wondered what Tamara's, if she had an official position and this was part of that, or how this came down.
I don't think she's an official part of the committee. She was just asked to, she's been following it along just because of policy impacts, and she was asked to just discuss the status of.
And this was part of it.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm pretty sure Dan Doran is our only east side rep.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, they wouldn't give us
See,
two.
that's what I thought, and then I saw this and I thought, well, I wonder if they included her and under what capacity. I mean, it would have been good, but it's good that she was able to give a report.
Yeah.
They included that, so.
They're very different. I used to work, of course, on the west side out of Portland, and some of the data centers that I was familiar with being in Forest Grove. And we bought and sold power, and we provided some power to Intel. And Intel is the major player over data centers. But they're, because of the land shortage for large parcels, they have a lot of different concerns over there because they're pretty impactful to residential neighborhoods.
Now, you mentioned the differences between east and west on the data centers. You said they're larger. You didn't say which side was larger. Was it the west side is larger data centers or the east?
No, the east side. Looking over there, I was real familiar with called West Side Development through Portland General Electric, and they're talking about 10 megawatts. Here, there are a lot more. Parcels are 20 acres, 50 acres.
No, 10 megawatts almost sounds cute.
Yeah, it's quaint.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's all the questions I got.
Thank you, George, for stepping in.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is our weed report. Corey.
There are no more weeds, and Corey's done a great job, right?
Yes. I wish that were the case. Yes, Roy Sweeney, weed program manager, and starting off my quarterly report, had a pretty strong quarter. We had March, was pretty busy with some energy meetings and reviews, and several topics with Odo. That was pretty busy in March, and then also wrapped up a lot of our contract residual spraying for lots for various entities before we moved into full-time road spraying for roads for the spring. And that's kind of what March looked like. And then heading into April, it was a few more meetings, and I think one important note and topic would be the Morrow County hosting a work session on the topics of revegetation for wind and solar facilities. And it was a kind of a best practices work session with some site contractors that flew in from Texas. I think there's 3 of them, vegetation, wildlands contractor from Washington. There was another vegetation expert from New Mexico. Somebody flew in from Colorado, one from Missouri. There was 24 in attendance. This was at the road department. And it was just a really good conglomeration of expertise trying to tackle the basically the weed issues and the vegetation issues and some of these solar sites and a little bit in wind. And while it was Odo that was kind of, it was kind of their work session, we hosted it, but it was a Morrow County Odo joint work session to try to tackle some of these issues, and it was great. And we had a good meeting, and we really came to some great conclusions and some great practices that will be set forth in the future. And I think that was Odo permitted, but I think Morrow County, and I know me personally, really benefited from this, since it was made very clear in that meeting that Morrow County will be permitting a lot of these big projects moving forward. And I think that knowledge and that expertise and that is going to carry into the future with our local permitting. So that was kind of it for April. And then we also hit it hard with the roads, and we got some good spray days, did get some good rains too, but that was a good month in April. And then moving into May is we continued with our spraying and with other contracts spraying that came on. So we're now at 8 entities, government entities that we spray for, not just roads. Now it's 8 in the county, with 3 more pending. And I kind of say contracts, but it's not really contracts. Most of these are entered into the Moore agreement with Marion County, so we can move forward without IGA. And yeah, it's been nice. So the weed district is set up, so that there'll be one expertise like in the county that can spray for other government agencies, so they don't have to hire an applicator, get them tested and scored and get all the permits and licenses, and then buy the spray apparatus. They can do a one shop with the county dispersed through schools, government agencies, and city municipalities. So that's been growing. Like I say, we're looking at maybe 12 throughout the county helping out, starting.
How many government municipalities do we have in the county? You've got to be close to the max.
Well, yeah. Well, in that, the Army Corps of Engineers is a big one.
Okay.
And then, there's the city boardman, city Hefner, the boardman Parks and Rec, which is different.
Okay.
Right now, one of the ones pending is with the boardman Head Start. They're they're a government entity for the Head Start. Yeah, and then some of the smaller ones, like that have kind of been picked up, that have been added, actually structured in, like the Ag Museum, the fairgrounds. Yeah, and yeah, so there's some bigger ones and then smaller ones, but anybody that's like with the government is eligible for that, so,
Okay,
yeah.
it's a lot more than I would have initially thought when you break it down that small.
Yeah, so,
I got a question on one of your items in May. It says you worked on wind energy fee rate.
yes, yeah. So, yeah, so that my director and I have been talking about this, actually, it was more of a year ago, when it was kind of going through the solar fee. And there was discussion about a fee with wind, and what that would look like, and how to make that compare to the wattage with the, and to make it fair for both parties. And so I figured I'd better start working on this if Morrow County is going to be locally permitted. And maybe get something in place or something, comparable, because Odo kind of explained it to me. I know the county has been like trying to get Odo, hey, get somebody out here, look at this stuff, take care of it, this is your permit. And they kind of put it back and said, well, these bigger permits, that's going to be on you guys now. That's you and this is your planning department. That's going to be who's taking care of this. And then it kind of got me thinking, the planning department doesn't have anybody to do that. And I kind of like dawned on me, I kind of saw where they were coming from. Like, okay, I see why you've always kind of said, no, you don't have anybody or whatnot. And so it kind of became a little real, like that now that Morrow County is getting these locally permitted. So I thought,
So you would perhaps be the person who oversees the weed permitting and not Odo in those scenarios. Is
well,
that,
I would not suggest that, but that's up to you guys. Somebody needs to, yeah.
Well, I mean-
There's got to be a work session or something figured out.
Well, if you look at the solar, when we worked it out at X number of dollars per acre, which
Yeah.
was simpler than the wind.
Yes,
It was to help the weed department work with compliance, and you're thinking along the same lines here. I mean,
yes.
right,
Well,
yeah, that's what it is.
Yes, that's what it
We
is,
never
yeah.
got to the wind. We talked about wind.
Yes, yeah,
We nailed down solar because it was simpler. It was a per acre and they're all the
Yes.
same. And we talked about wind, but never nailed it down.
Mhm.
But because of the complexity of the roads and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's still the same concept. You're under compliance, make sure everybody's doing, it's not mitigation. And just to
Yeah.
make sure that they're following the rules. That's what you're working on. Right?
Yes,
Yeah,
correct.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
correct, yeah. Yeah,
Because then when we start talking to the wind people, it'll make it easier to have that in there in the early negotiations.
Mhm.
There's one thing I don't like to do, and they don't like it either, is bring it in at the last minute,
Right.
because they've done their cost analysis stuff,
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, anyway.
Yeah.
So that's on your radar there.
it is,
Good.
yes, yeah.
Good.
Yeah, and I probably should know too, been busy with trying to get the biocontrols restarted in Morrow County. So biocontrols is the bugs, the weevils, and the mites that eat the noxious weeds and kill back the plants and the seedlings. And it does a really good job. And it's starting to the populations where there was biocontrols have done such a good job. They've actually ate themselves out of house and home, and it's very tough to find a site to go gather and transplant throughout the county now because it works so well. And my predecessor was probably the best in the state at it. And so after 3 years, yeah, they've done a great job, and now it's time to get some more in. And landowners been really starting to see that it's coming back after them dying out. So I've been working on that quite a bit this month. So.
Okay, any other questions of Corey?
I just have to ask, do you get like literally a box of bugs when you get those shipped to you or something like that?
Well, I have a cooler that's electric cooler and with a bunch of habitat twigs, sticks, and then you go out with a butterfly net. But it's a and you literally scoop up the bugs in the net and you pick out the weed seedlings. You got to know which one it is, but you'll get a dozen or so, and then you put them in there and transplant them out in country, and that's kind of how it's done. And it works really well. They will left alone and they'll eat acres of knapweed.
Wow.
And yeah,
That's cool.
Okay.
So if you see Corey with a butterfly net, he's actually working.
Yes. This is not a hobby.
Thank
all
you.
right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
All right, so public treasurer's report, Jalen's on their own, just use a written. Accounts payable, Kevin, same way, you'll see how somebody wants to say. Okay, county administrator report.
Looking for my agenda to remind me. Just 1 second. So I got booted out of my system. By and large, board, I appreciate the opportunity to give a report. Several of the items that we've been looking after over the last 2 weeks period. Of course, construction on the courthouse is going well. We've received a couple. Stephen with our GIS took the drone down. I'm not sure if I sent those photos on to you. I'll do that after my report. Took some beautiful aerial shots of the construction. He's going to do that intermittently through it, along with the updates that Fountain's providing. Things are going well, on target. Commissioner Peterson attended the construction meeting last Thursday and was able to do a walkthrough and check the areas. Open invitation from Boughton. If you ever want to go down and take a look at it, just give me a heads up when you'd like to. We can coordinate it. Just for your knowledge, they generally work a Monday through Thursday schedule. So if you're interested, but they're happy to throw a hard hat on you and walk you around and give you the latest updates on those. Other items, HR director, we'll be chatting about that a little bit later, but good progress on that. And the assistant we're still interviewing for. Working through labor items with the Teamsters for the sheriff's office. Our next meeting is June 1st. And I think we're making progress to a position where we can really get some specific negotiating and progress on that, and hopefully have that all tied up in June so it doesn't linger out too much longer. Excuse me. Other items, one thing to note that was not on my report is I'll be sending out an invite for kind of a non-mandatory all staff meeting. So any employee of the county, be a question and answer thing for the county administrator. We're going to review a few things, including just the reason why we changed from that pay study, just to kind of allow our frontline employees to ask questions as necessary. We relay that information through directors and that, but there's still people with questions, and I figure get it straight from the county administrator's mouth. And so, and if they have any other questions that we're doing, so if you see anything, that's the impetus of that determination. So, also just congratulations to our chair for the election. not formally announced yet, but it looks like we'll have you back for another 4 years. So congratulations on that.
I'm glad you said have me back. So there's some other things you could have put in.
Well, we'll endure. But, and also just for your information, I will be away from the office this Friday. After we get the budget meeting all taken care of. I do want to note on the budget, as I put on the report, last year we weren't structurally balanced. As Kevin has made a point, we were pulling from reserves quite heavily. A lot of work by Kevin to get that structurally balanced. So we're in the black and not pulling from those reserves as much. I do want to take my hats off. I mean, Kevin and I really put it out to the elected officials and the department heads to cut the fluff. You know, that just residual stuff that just puffs up the budget, but really isn't usually spent. And they stepped up by and large. And I do just want to express appreciation to them. I know that runs rumors of the county doesn't have money to run things, but really it's just reporting correctly and taking care of things. So that was a good message that our elected officials and department heads stepped up to, and really did a good job. So we're excited. I'm excited to have the budget meeting tomorrow, get our path forward for next year, and look forward to sitting down with you tomorrow to do that. And that's one reason why we can have a short meeting today. Any questions from the commission?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't have any
He
questions.
said he was excited for a budget meeting. Are we sure he's well?
Well,
Get it behind you
Get it
guys.
behind him.
yeah, we get that behind us. That's all good. I know once we do that, Kevin's still got a couple hurdles for reports and that, but it's been a heavy weight on his shoulders, and appreciate the efforts. that
Well,
he
looks
has
like we
showed.
made some really good structural changes. I mean, as far as the pension and getting concurrent costs in line with concurrent, things like that. It sounds like, and the CIP and the long range planning, it looks like
Oh,
kind of really.
definitely. So several of the strategic initiatives that you've kind of placed and expected of us, we were able to put in place. Really do appreciate several of the more or less, proposals that Kevin just said, we need to do this, and he took it upon himself to do that. So really appreciate the effort he's done on top of balancing the ERP. He's really just said this is the way it needs to be. So kudos to him for doing that.
It looks like we tackled quite a few of those myself. I don't
Yeah.
know if that's just feel the same way, but I do.
We're not there yet, but we continue to make progress.
Yeah,
Is
right,
what we're
exactly.
saying. So, and I think we're heading in the right direction.
Yeah.
With that, if I could ask for a very short recess, I have a point of, I have a question on procedure that I'd like to ask you and Justin offline, if that's okay.
Okay, all right, we'll call a 5-minute recess.
That's not pause.
We called Mike. Call the meeting back to order. Next up is our consent agenda. I would like to pull D out and talk about it. Is that about? Yeah.
Mhm.
Anybody else have anything they want?
So on A, the minutes from the March 18th, 2026 regular session, we'll poll and they will come back at a later time.
So you want those out?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. You want anything out?
I almost feel like I should pick something.
That's
No,
the-
No.
Okay. Entertain a motion to approve consent with A and D pulled out.
I move to approve the consent agenda with the removal of items A and D.
Just for clarification, the only thing that I was wanting to poll was the March 18th, 2026 regular meeting. The other minutes can be approved.
Okay,
Are they lumped together?
yeah. Okay. I'm gonna,
Oh, camera's not on.
you know what, Jeff, do you mind making that motion then?
Sure. I will approve the consent agenda, removing the March 18th, 2026 regular session minutes, leaving the other minutes there. And also upon item D, the payment authorization for about construction, and that one will be discussed, I assume today. The minutes will be brought back for at a later time.
I second that.
Been moved in second, further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign, motion carried. Okay, D on the ballot. This is a question, maybe Matt, maybe Kevin, I don't know. I was looking over at the invoice there and the withhold on this is 0, I think, the retainage. And I think it has been for the last 2. Isn't that required? Or am I wrong on ORS that you have to, even on materials on site?
So this was a question that did come up previously. We did ask them, we got clarification. The contract is based with the CMGC. They actually have a bond that they take out to cover the retainage rather than retaining it from this. And so that's, so we don't see a retainage on the invoices, but there's a bond that we can go, that's held, that they paid for, that we can claim it doesn't get released until the project is completed to our satisfaction.
So the results for the county are the same.
Yes.
Protection, okay. And one other quick question, this is kind of my curiosity. When you get ready to pay these, could you tell me the process that you go through to check, see if the work has been completed? Who does it and how that's?
Yeah, so from my level, of course, we're having our weekly construction meetings on Thursdays every week. When we have these invoices submitted, we have our owner's rep, our management group alliance. They're at every weekly meeting and they're checking on the site. They sign off on this, as well as the architects. And so we have kind of a 3-level review to make sure the work is proceeding as proposed. And we rely heavily on Doug with Alliance to make sure the work is what's specified and what is being built.
Wondered how that worked, okay. So that's all I wanted to talk about, so I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve payment of application L-145-8 by Bowden Construction in the amount of $1,272,647.24.
Second.
Moved in second, any further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Okay, we'll move on to our business items. No one presentation of color of water bill, all the speakers.
This is really gonna be J.R. Cook, so.
Great.
I brought you books.
Thank you, we don't have enough.
Yeah, you don't have enough to read in that packet, right? So, and I know I only have 15 minutes, so I will be brief, but hopefully detailed. So Chair Sykes, members of the commission, J.R. Cook, Director of the Northeast Oregon Water Association. The mailing address is P.O. Box 1026, Pendleton, Oregon. Commissioner Peterson, appreciate you making the offer to now to come present to you today a little bit of background on where we're at with the water sustainability efforts in the kind of North Morrow, West Umatilla County area. And then the color water bill that we submitted or introduced last year during short session that will be reintroduced again this long session of the Oregon legislature and why. But I think, I don't know, do you want me to manage the slides or do I just say slide forward?
Just go ahead and tell me.
Okay, yeah, we'll just go forward here. So let's go to the slide 2 if you can. And so I don't think it goes without saying, you know, where we're located, but I think it's kind of neat to see where we're located along the Columbia River, just for context. 1,200-mile river, right? Today it's flowing about 210,000 cubic feet per second. We're pulling out of the Columbia River in our neck of the woods about 0.5% of that today for our agricultural operations. If that gives you some perspective of our little footprint of water use, but what it does for the region. And so that, you know, 0.5% goes on to about 120. We're hoping to get to about 160,000 acres of high value irrigated farmland in the region. And that produces about a $2 billion return to the region and the state in terms of the value added processing, distribution, and ultimate sales of the product. So, very small area, very small footprint on water use, very big impact financially for the region. So again, the reason why we have now is to try to pull that all together on fixing some of our problems. So next slide, please. This is, I'm not going to go into detail, and I'll give you a packet that has, and Commissioner Peterson has the chronology already from a previous meeting, but I think that it's really important to kind of look back on what got us to where we're at. And this is a pretty simple chronology for that. 1900 to 1970s, the exploitation period, there wasn't a lot of science around. It was, develop the West. The 50s, contrary to popular belief in the newspapers where they said, these problems have been around since the 1980s. It was actually the 1950s when the first reports of groundwater quality issues started to arise, and the first reports of groundwater quantity issues. So it was all the way back in the 50s, meaning good for us, or most of us, that we inherited these problems. We didn't create most of them, but we're trying to, use this generation and modern technology to fix them. Then I would say the 70s through early 2000 were probably the period I'm glad I was not a professional in this field yet. A ton of litigation, a ton of things happened. Salmon wars, the Umatilla Basin Exchange negotiations, the critical groundwater curtailments, the Lagwama, you name it. When science caught up, it hit this region significantly and caused a significant amount of financial stress to the region. I mean, we lost literally 60% of our groundwater rights holders were cut off pretty much overnight from irrigating, and a lot of people lost their farms. That's actually what started some of the consolidation in this region, was the critical groundwater curtailments of the 70s and 80s. In 2008, we passed the 2050 plan, and it was a plan that identified what we can do over the next 50 years to ensure water supplies indefinitely. We're going to give you an update on where we're at in that process of that plan today. But what we're seeing, and this is what we're trying to get in front of, and I think that it goes without saying with what you've all dealt with as county commissioners, is we're trying to keep this on a proactive footing and moving forward. But we've kind of felt like this has been, these last 6 years, roughly, probably a little earlier, maybe 8 years. We've kind of considered it kind of a relapse period where we're feeling like we're going back to this confrontational, arena with, litigation, with agency arguments, not collaboration. And now his role is try to get us back on track and keep moving in a forward direction on fixing the problem. And so obviously there's some litigation bogging that down in the basin right now. There's some pretty sensationalized issues out there that we're all dealing with. But for the most part, hopefully this presentation shows you that the fix is here and you've got a willing land base. And I think your membership, and now it shows that everybody's willing to fix the problem. So next slide, please. So again, the problems we inherited really quick, that quite frankly, a lot of these we're trying to fix right now. So that the federal government gave the water in our region away twice. Originally through the Treaty of 1855, the tribes do have, a claim on water in our region. And then they give it to the states to appropriate out to private users for development. And so the same water is essentially being fought over in two separate federal actions. There's an over-appropriated surface water system, over-appropriated aquifers with a capital S. I think it's really important to remind everybody that we have various basalt aquifers that are separate and distinct from one another, hence the colors in that map. And we do not have one underground lake of an alluvial shallow aquifer. That is a compartmentalized alluvial aquifer, and science is proving that. And so one of the things we just always like to remind people is this isn't one lake that we're all a part of. It's a bunch of series of ponds, and we're trying to fix those individually, and each of those have individual stakeholders. The salmon wars in ESA cut off the river, created the mitigation program in the 90s, and then ultimately the fossil water issue of basalt aquifers. Very, very clean, been underground since prior to the Industrial Revolution, probably the best potable resource in the state of Oregon. The problem is it's really easy to get that water out, very hard to get it back in, both in terms of cost and in terms of, monitoring and tracking. So those are the inherited issues. And then here's, we can skip past the next one and just go to, because our goals, but So to set out to fix this, the first thing that we focused on when we formed now in 2012 is getting the infrastructure down into the critical groundwater areas. So the goal obviously starts with getting water out of the river, getting it into those red dots and those blue dots, and getting agriculture off that potable resource as a primary need annually, and getting them to the Columbia River. None of the rest of this can happen in terms of a solution if ag's still 100% reliant upon groundwater. There's always going to be the fight over that groundwater based on what Western water law. And so again, to do no harm and to actually keep the land base productive, the first goal was get the 3 regional projects done. As you see in the map, it's really hard to kind of see on the screen, but the left project is the west project. That's starts at the Columbia Improvement District, Port Morrow pump station there, and extends now all the way over into Butter Creek. So it picks up a lot of Columbia Improvement District. We'll show you a map where we're actually looking at pinning a couple of lines down into the Lindsay ground and others over time here. But that's kind of to take care of those westerly critical groundwater areas in Morrow County. Then the line actually goes up and over into Butter Creek now and picks up some of the southerly area of Westland Irrigation District south of Echo. And then we have the ordinance project that just got finished this winter. That's right there at the mouth of the Umatilla River, basically just downstream of it. That has capacity to serve the depot's needs. It actually can, it's already looped into the city of Umatilla, and then it'll serve Westland Irrigation District, it serves 2 benefits. One, relieve some pressures on the water supplies the tribes want for settlement. But 2, it picks up that central area of the critical groundwater areas, sub-area A, which is a key for Echo, Stanfield, Hermiston, will get picked up by Westland over time here as that builds out. And then the East project picks up everything, kind of all the critical groundwater areas east of Hermiston. And that line, it's kind of crazy, those turquoise lines there. The West project now, that water stays in a canal or pipe about 40 miles before it ends at a pivot. So that tells you how big these projects are and how great they are in scale. And in the East project now, actually, the turquoise lines there, which are the private lines, we can now actually dump water into the Umatilla River at Nolan if we wanted to out of the Columbia River. That's how far that extends south. Just as a side note, every one of these projects we've committed to installing NOAA-approved no-take fish screens for smolts. So one of the things we've proven is that we can develop the Columbia River water and not impact fish at the same time. And so these screens, they average around $3 to $6 million, about 6 years of permitting process, but we've ultimately got every one of our pump stations on to NOAA-approved no-take fish screens. So the table's set, the infrastructure's there. What are the next steps? So next slide, please. So yeah, this is kind of a quick map. So this is the infrastructure picture we had to start with before 2012. So the Columbia Improvement District is on the left. The regional water system is that middle line, and you see that little line to the right. That's just the phase 2 infrastructure of Cold Springs, but the Bureau of Reclamation owns. So go ahead and go to the next slide. In the last 12 years, for some reason it didn't, well, my bad. Yeah, okay, sorry, go ahead, back one slide. This is what we built since 2012, which is, pretty monumental, $300 million. But we added capacity to CID, as we talked about, to get down into those critical groundwater areas you see to the south of what used to be the old Boardman Tree Farm. We've built ordnance. We've done recharge testing at ordnance. We're in the process of building a new recharge project there. We're designing aquifer dialysis at the east beach of the Port of Morrow that will tie into CID. And then we built the east project. So it shows that over the course of the last 12 years, we now have the arteries penetrating down into picking up all these critical groundwater area farms. Go ahead to the next one now, please. And we're actually starting to save groundwater. This slide is pretty neat for us because it shows that we are committing as an agricultural region to fixing the problem. The top map is, or the top graph is some of our senior water rights holders that, if you look to the left, that's what they were pumping and what they had in terms of their senior allocation. And as you move to the right, that shows how they've slowly been able to relieve pressures on groundwater pumping while they get to the Columbia. And the aquifers are responding. So that graph to the bottom, that's one of our farms in Stage Gulch. There's about 6 basalt wells on it. And that's an average trend showing, The left is when they drilled the well, and started to get to the point where the declines were getting bad. But just in a matter of 7 or so years, we're starting to see some pretty major natural recovery in the system, showing that Mother Nature can repair herself if we give her some time. And again, that's all potable water now that's sitting there, either for city growth or residential needs or others. So I mean, it's a good trade-off for ag to get the Columbia River water and save this potable water for later. Go ahead. Excellent. Now we'll get into color water a little bit. So color water is one of 3 final steps to getting us the structure we need to solve every problem in this basin. And so we're not kidding when we say we can solve everything with the color water structure. And the reason for that is it brings the entire ag community together under one public entity that can work with you on whatever issues come up. And right now, if you have a problem, you have to go to the individuals and try to get all the individuals to agree on something. And in this case, you'll come to a board, just like we come to you to talk about something and to figure out a path forward with the county. All you have to do is come to the Mid-Columbia Water Commission board, 1,700 cubic feet per second of capacity, pretty much every groundwater right holder. And if we want to talk about cold water refugia for fish, aquifer storage and recovery, relieving pressures greater on basalts, now we have the structure to do that, whereas we don't right now. And in addition to that, it gives us the ability to establish one district. A lot of private users can come into that district, and now you've turned privately held water rights into a public resource managed by the district. That gives more access for the junior users, others that they don't have today. And so it's managed as a public entity and as a district. So color water in terms of structure is key to moving forward from here on out. And that structure will move forward on the permanent mitigation program, which is the second bullet. And then ultimately the third bullet, which are some of the net environmental benefits stuff we're working on, continued recharge testing, groundwater savings. We're doing some modeling in the Umatilla River to see if we could do some cold water refugia testing to keep anadromous fish, healthy longer. Things like that can be done through this district, but are pretty difficult to do without it. So next slide, please. So this is originally the left was when we identified that we needed this type of a structure, and that's actually back before we had all this technology. I think that was done in 02 or 03. That thing on the left turned into the structure on the right in the plan, and then go ahead to go to the next slide. And this is where we are today. So ultimately we have now that's working on the policy, but we had the districts that are public entities formed to own, operate, and build the projects. And in those districts formed an IGA called the Mid-Columbia Water Commission. So the districts own, operate, assess fees, do all the things the district does. And they've come together under an IGA to administer how we move the water around within this region. So now that the structure is in place, Mid-C will be the anchor point for the color of water. That will be the entity that holds all of this. Now ultimately can potentially slowly start to go away as an organization if we can get this public organization, structured and approved. Or people might decide to keep now around for another 20 years. We don't know, but for the most part, we're trying to work now out of a job. So next slide. So what does color water do? Basically, it establishes a 51-mile area of diversions from Willow Creek up to Alula Gap. That's the upper right-hand corner. And then it creates a boundary around our critical groundwater areas that allows us to move water around those diversions on an annual basis and meet needs as a district rather than individuals. So if you look at the bottom left in that pie chart, those are all the private water rights we're administering as part of Mid-C today. But the state doesn't see those as part of a district water right. They make us track those individually to an individual field, and we can't move it around without going through state processes and transfers. What this will do is it'll create a district no different than a municipal boundary, where in one day landowner A might need some of that water for an alfalfa crop. And as we get to peak, that water moves into, potatoes, onions, and carrots. On the shoulders, we're saving groundwater. So it allows the district to manage and control that. The state still regulates at the point of diversion. So we ensure we don't take, any more water out of the river than we legally can. But once it gets into that district, it's managed by the district for both assessment and for monitoring, tracking, and reporting. That's a color of water in a nutshell. So next slide. So these are some things that it does and does not. I'm not going to go into the details, but what we try to explain to the legislature, and we've had over 26 legislative meetings this last 3 weeks, is that it does a lot of good, not a lot of bad. And I think that everybody is ready for modernized management in Oregon, and we're a test case for that. So I'm hoping we've got a shot at getting the bill through. But there's a lot of rumors out there on what this does, and some of them are this is a wolf in sheep's clothing to get water to data centers. This is just for irrigation. We have deals with cities and deals with ports to bring water through the pipeline, but those water rights are municipal and industrial water rights. Those aren't irrigation rights. Those are just contracts for conveyance, just like somebody would contract with you to convey something through a public road, right? So the capacity is public capacity, and it does have industrial and municipal water rights flowing through it. But the water rights program itself is just for the irrigation side of this. The other thing that people keep arguing over is that this is enlargement, that it's going to allow us to do things that we wouldn't normally be able to do with our water rights. So that's no further from the truth. What this is essentially doing is allowing all of these private water rights holders to be bigger than themselves, to bring their water rights into a public entity, consolidate that rate and volume into one district boundary, and then that's managed to a rate and duty no different than what it's being managed to today. It's just being optimized on a daily basis. So same rate, same total volume out of the river, better optimization of the daily use is what this essentially does. So next slide. And then this is the final build out. If we can get color water, we're already in plans to extend. Like I said, there's the 2 red lines off the CID to pick up the Lindsay ground as far south as we can. The red line to the right on the CID line, that would pick up all the way down to the Perkins farm, basically going to Hebner. And then Ordnance can build out down into the Echo area. And as you see, a lot of these have recharge at the fingers of them. So what we're also trying to do is complete recharge projects in the fall and winter when we're not needing it for ag. But that's kind of the total build out plan that I probably won't see in my lifetime or career time, but that would hopefully, take place if we can get color water structure. So last slide, I think, is that this is really what our goals are. We need to get color water past this session. We would appreciate any, support that Morrow County can continue to give us, both in the OCA, through your various interest groups and others, to make sure that people see that this is a positive. Once that passes, then we'll begin the petitioning process, because what this requires is that the bill has to pass, but then the landowners have to commit to the district, and that'll go through a formal petitioning process, no different than somebody petitioning to come into a city. Continue to build out the infrastructure, and then work on documenting the groundwater savings. So again, the solutions here, we're ready. It obviously doesn't go all the way to South County. We wish it would, but you can't push Columbia River water all the way down there and still make money on it. So we're focusing on the area we can fix, and hopefully some of the ancillary groundwater benefits of that can trickle further south and east. So hopefully I made it close to 15 minutes, but
I didn't set a timer, but you went over, but not too bad.
not too bad. Good. So yeah. So with that, I guess I'm just here to answer questions if you have any of me, but
Questions of JR?
So in the preliminary stuff, are you getting a lot of the water right holders in concept agreeing to join the new larger district?
yeah, so right now given IRZ's our technical consultant on this, and they're actually doing all the audits on what water rights we would bring in. And right now, just in the way we manage the current 3 projects, we're at about 90% participation today in terms of the landowners that have water rights to flow through this. The 2 areas that we would need to kind of look at is one, going out to that other 10% to see if they would have any interest in including their diversions or their water rights into it. But the biggie is going to be, ensuring that the water rights are audited correctly, so we know how much rate and volume actually comes in. And that's what's taken a lot of the work, because if you go on to the water rights information system of the state, it's a mess. And so we're almost going through and like doing a forensic audit of that system to find out what people truly have. But in terms of participation, that's the great thing about our region is, from Willow Creek to Willow Gap, everybody's already kind of sharing crop rotation and moving water around. And if we can memorialize that into a district structure, there's a lot of participation already waiting in the wings to make it happen. I would tell you 10 years ago, we wouldn't have had that commitment because we didn't have the projects built. But after a few years of operating these projects as public entities, people have kind of gotten used to, hey, working through a district structure is a little bit easier for me. The district can manage the reporting. All I got to do is farm and call for water. It's kind of a win-win for the private water rights holders and for, quite frankly, the junior folks that want to contract for some of that remaining water. So,
Well, that's one of the benefits, knowing very little about it, but,
Yeah.
Just hearing the talk about when the farmer wants to take from a different diversion, it's the same water right. It's the process, the paperwork to go through with the state to be able to use this pump station this year instead of that one. And that whatever crop they're growing isn't gonna need as much water this year, so they're allowing somebody else to use their excess capacity someplace else. And just the whole nightmare of dealing with the state to do that. And that's where, from the outside layperson, where I could see really the benefit of what your project would do is that you don't have to deal with the state on every single item.
right. And the state still does have adequate control on this. I mean, at the end of the day, technology is a beautiful thing with water. Because we've heard these, these complaints that, hey, you're telling us that you can manage a water rights region half the size of Rhode Island, within a district. Well, we're not out there in covered wagons checking head gates anymore on a daily basis. We've got people, this will ultimately probably get consolidated in one control room managing all these systems at once. And it's one person sitting in a computer 24/7, no different than what 3 Mile and some of these other farms are doing today. Technology's enabled us to do that. And technology's obviously showed us how we can optimize the water we have and not waste it as well. And so what's created this opportunity, quite frankly, is the efficiency of this region and the fact that there is some water that can be traded amongst people on a daily or annual basis to meet the crop rotation demands. So it's been a pretty neat thing to be a part of.
Here, if I could ask 2 questions.
Yeah.
Jared, thanks for coming. One question. My understanding was the color of water was on for the 26th short session, but it kind of was pulled by NOAA in that because it wasn't exactly what you wanted. What are you looking at with 2027, and is that a correct?
Yeah,
summary
so
of 26?
ultimately the history of that, we had the votes to get that out of committee in 2026, and big thanks. This became a priority for Representative Helm and Representative Owens, who are the co-chairs of the Water Committee. The governor's office and the department had some concerns with, they were concerned about this enlargement issue primarily and couldn't get their arms wrapped around the size of the scope of the color water. So we worked with Representative Helm and Owens in the governor's office, and we voluntarily pulled the bill for 2026. And the governor's office agreed to facilitate and have some initial question and answer meetings with the agency and with them. So we're going through those right now. We're again thankful that Rep Owens and Helm, they're a part of those meetings. And the idea there is to get the agency questions answered, address some of the Department of Justice's questions that they felt like were outstanding in the short session. And then once those questions are answered, we will be conducting probably a lot greater outreach with the NGOs and others on, if there's going to be changes to the language of the bill to address their concerns, or if it's going to be as is. In this packet, I will say we went through OLIS, Oregon Legislative Information System, and we looked at every opposition comment and every one of the agency's concerns that were on OLIS, and we crafted a response to those, and it's in a table format. And I'm going to give this to the commissioners in an extra packet for the staff. This is a public document, so it's not anything that we're afraid of sharing. But what we wanted people to see is that this is, it's an open book, that we're showing you what we can do with this program. And a lot of the concerns, quite frankly, are not concerns germane to the bill. It's, like I said, it's concerns on who's using the water and others. But if you look at the face value of the bill, this bill will solve the groundwater problem over time. And so we're pretty confident in that. And so if we don't pass it in 27, we'll introduce it in 28 and 29. And I mean, because it's the one thing that's needed. So, but yeah, that's why we pulled it.
Cool. Thank you for the clarification. The second question is, it sounds like this is all state driven. If we get that approval, everything is good. Do you see, since we're pulling from the Columbia River, have you got buy-in from the from the tribes? And is there any potential federal impact and hoops that you'd have to jump through on that?
Yeah, so we do have to go through federal permitting for the fish screens anytime we get, because there's the take line below the Columbia River. Any construction we do down there obviously goes through a Section 7 and all that fun stuff. And so most of that work's been done. We need to get into the river in a couple of spots to add a little bit more infrastructure. But for the most part, the fish screens are in and the federal consultation stuff is over. The water rights side of this, since this is existing water rights, we do not anticipate a federal nexus there because the state has sovereign control over issuing water rights. And that's honestly been one of the issues we're dealing with trying to get water out of the Columbia in any contractual arrangements in Canada or Washington is that it's the second largest river in the United States and it doesn't have a compact. It's managed individually by each state and Canada controls all the storage. And so the federal nexus is in the transportation and the federal infrastructure for power generation and all the things the dams do. But in terms of water rights and water use, those are directly controlled by the state. In this case, OAR 690 Division 33 is kind of the gospel, and that's the mitigation criteria on how you pull new water out of the Columbia. But the bulk of these water rights are grandfathered. They're pre-1993 water rights that'll come in under this. As long as we stay within the rate and volume of those, then there's no enlargement. There's no reason for the state to say you're taking any more that you could have taken today as a private water rights holder. The mitigation program may ultimately have a federal nexus because of the bi-state nature of it. And that will obviously all bring in the tribes in terms of the CRITFIC and 14 sovereign interests on the main stem. So the water rights side of it and the permanent mitigation program will definitely be a broader table than what this bill is.
Okay, thank you.
The-
So remind us how much of a percentage of the water the Oregon has of water rights compared to like Washington. If I remember right, Oregon it gets like 7%, Washington gets 13-14% or something like that.
Yeah, the total diversion out of the Columbia, all uses between the three states is 8%. So 92% of the Columbia River goes to the ocean. Of that 8%, Oregon only has 1/2 of 1% in its name. The rest of it, I think Idaho's at 4% and Washington's at 3.5 or 4%. And we get a half of a percent of that 8%. And so, I mean, again,
We get 0.5.
yeah.
You keep saying 5 cents, yeah, half.
Yeah, it's point, yeah, it's not 50%, it's 1/2 of 1%, right? I mean, and the thing that we wanted, Gibb and I are working with this on a Google Earth map, but if you look at the 1,100 miles of the Columbia River system, there's very few areas of that system. I mean, it's a gigantic watershed, but there's very few areas like this that you can actually use it for high value irrigated agriculture. The rest of it's mountains, other uses. I mean, so when we talk about impacts to the river system, those impacts were there, quite frankly, before these laws were in place, because those areas developed. We just developed on groundwater, and by the time we realized we had a problem, the Columbia River was cut off, and we're trying to get to it to solve our problems. But in terms of this belief that we're going to dewater the Columbia for agriculture, there's not the ground you can't reach any ground to ever get close to dewatering it. So it's mountains and canyons and
South County, which apparently doesn't pay enough to do, so. Do that.
If you want to pay the pumpkin costs,
yeah.
That's an expensive garden.
There's a lot of pie in the sky ideas on how people in California could use Columbia River water, and I don't think I'll ever see it in my lifetime. But never say never. So yeah.
I would say no to that personally.
Yeah.
No. We can't. Anyways,
Okay, any other questions, JR?
thank you for coming.
You bet. And I'll leave these packets for if you want any bedtime reading, because it's got the slideshow, the chronology, a couple one-pagers on the color water, and then like I said, that OLIS document on the addressing all the concerns. Excellent. Thanks for taking the time with me today.
Yeah,
thank you.
Good to see everybody.
Thank you.
Congratulations, by the way. Our condolences.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, no, thanks a lot, appreciate it.
You bet.
Okay, next up is our OSU extension review report.
So, so we have several entities that we have IGAs with that we give annual amounts. The Morrow County Extension is one of them. We have a couple others that will be coming in at the first of the June meeting just to give a report on based on what they received from the county and let you know what the action plan is with that. So there was a little bit of a confusion. They thought it was down in Hefner, but they'll be calling in. And who is it that's?
Jess Jones.
Okay.
Shoot, that's a bummer that they went to the wrong spot.
Yeah, so let's see if we've got her on
She's
here. She is
And Nicole's up there too.
Nicole Strong.
Good morning. Good morning.
And they do have a PowerPoint present. Good morning, Nicole and Jess. I'm just gonna see if I can set it up so you can start your video if you'd like.
Thank you. That'd be great. We're so sorry for the oversight this morning. I was telling Valerie that we both skimmed the agenda and looked for where we were at in today's meeting and failed to see that it was in Oregon today. So I'm very sorry. I planned to come in on the 3rd and just shake hands and say hello to you all so I can meet you in person.
So,
Well, look forward to it. I'm wearing a beaver tie, just so you know. I'm a little disappointed you're not here.
Well, good.
The whole purpose, and they're not
I know. I don't, it's very rare that I wear this.
and let me get to share the presentation. Okay, and so it should be okay. We have your presentation up on the screen now.
Great, thank you.
Are you able to see it? I can just click through as
Yeah.
needed.
Yep, I can see it. Nicole, can you? Oh, you're muted. Okay. All right. Well, I'll go ahead and start us off. I know there's a couple different parts that Nicole is going to chime in on. So if you can, I don't know if you have to unmute her and then mute me or how that works, but if we are both able to talk and chime in on each other, that would be wonderful. But you can go ahead and move on to the next slide and we'll get this started.
Okay.
So we'll just do a quick overview of what Extension actually is, because I know until I started working for Extension almost 2 years ago that I didn't have a very good grasp on it. I just thought Extension equals 4-H. So it's quite a bit broader than that. We're not a campus. That's often a confusion. We're not located in Corvallis. We're out here with all of you in Morrow County, serving everyone. We do not do any recruitment. We're just here to serve, like I said. And again, we're more than 4-H. Youth is just one part of it. We have a very, very broad portfolio that we will touch on a little bit of that today in the areas that we particularly serve here in Morrow County. And we strive to be locally trusted, for sure. Next slide, please. I think Nicole's trying to chime in and talk if you can unmute her.
Yeah, just 1 second.
Thank you. I just want to add that we're often known as the Cooperative Extension Service, and that because we're funded through various mechanisms. We receive money from the National Institute of Food and Agriculture. That's our federal source. We get state funding from an OSU statewide line item that includes Extension, Ag Experiment Station, and the Forest Research Labs. And then our local funding comes from the counties. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So this is just a brief breakdown of our presentation and what we plan to touch on with you today: land and economy, health and community, youth and future pathways, and we'll elaborate a bit in each of those areas. You can go ahead and go. Thank you. First up's land and economy. So a very important part of Extension is agriculture. We serve commercial crop and livestock producers, small acreage landowners. Our crops agent is Larry Lucher, and he focuses a lot on science-based production support, crop tours and educational presentations, and on farm problem solving. I have a brief narrative I will touch on that he wrote, and I think you guys have it as well. It's in the budget narrative that we sent over earlier this year, but um, he responded to more than 50 requests for help from Morrow County wheat producers. He delivers research-based information during 21 presentations, 2 workshops, and 1 major crop tour with record attendance. He's also done opportunistic field demonstrations. He conducts local and on-farm research. He deals with wheat nutrition, alternative weed control methods, which we've touched on a little bit below with that $500,000 of outside funding that he's actually acquired to help with adaptive spraying smart technology. This will reduce the pesticide load in the environment by 75%. So that's very innovative and exciting. And we're really proud of him for working so hard towards that goal. He does several lectures throughout the year, outdoor classes. He's very, very active in our county and very, very trusted with our local farmers.
I second that.
If Nicole doesn't have anything to add, I'll move on to the next slide.
Well, I do have something to add, but it's about our forestry and natural resources and fire programs. Though we don't have faculty based in Morrow County, we have several people who serve Morrow County in this realm. Micah Schmidt is our regional fire specialist, and he's been working really closely with the Southern Blues Prescribed Burn Association. They do training and support. In 2025, they experimented with some private land burns, 120 acres, and I think they're moving on to working in other regions this year, though I think prescribed burn season might be over. They also are doing wildfire workforce skills. Mike is working with Wallowa Resources, Oregon Department of Forestry, the Morrow County SWCD, Forest Service, and Umatilla Electric Cooperative. Last year they had an 11-week field season and weekly education sessions trying to prepare that next generation of workforce. In addition to that, we have either Jacob Putney or John Punches who are available to come to Morrow County upon request to provide forestry education or technical assistance. We also do a rotation of tree schools, which is a really fun event where landowners and others can come for a full day of learning. And we have a really great, I'll say really great because I started it back when I was the extension forester, Life on the Dry Side Forestry magazine that's available online. So even though we don't see people in the office every day, we have one of the great strengths of Extension is we bring this expertise from around the region and around the state to help meet community needs. Okay, we can move on.
All right, health and community. So this is an area that we have got some great people helping out with. Number one on my list here is Carolina Muniz. She's actually on maternity leave right now. So I have a few words that I'll talk about from her, but as I am also starting to get involved where I actually just took a Master Food Preserver course and am planning to implement some classes and different things in Morrow County. Probably not until about a year from now. I am due with a baby in September, and so even though I have completed the course, I'm going to have to put some of my classes and planning like that on hold until next spring. But we strive to serve families facing food insecurity and educate families about how they can cook healthier meals. We try to get older adults involved as well. We have Senior Matters classes, a Food Hero cooking kit program that I'll elaborate on a little bit here in a minute. We just try to get people access to nutrition and healthy food and educate them on community food security. And then again, as I started out with, we're implementing a Master Food Preserver program to help kind of round all that out. So our Senior Matters classes primarily support older adults in maintaining independence while building social connections through education on nutrition, physical activity, and healthy aging. Um, I have Master Food Preserver next on here. I touched on that already, but We are going to be receiving an equipment kit here pretty soon that I will test out and use a little bit first, and then I'd like to advertise it and have people come in and actually use it in our office or in a kitchen somewhere in the county, yet to be determined. But if people can come and experience that, and then they can eventually check that equipment out and go use it for themselves and gain confidence and preserve their own food at home with that. So that's kind of the goal, is just to make that more accessible for them. We're really excited about that. Nicole, do you have anything to add on that? No? Okay. We can move on. We've got a couple slides, the first one being 4-H clubs. You want to go ahead and click ahead one more for me? Thank you so much. So we serve youth ages 5 to 19 across Morrow County and all of the communities in Morrow County. We have club-based mentoring with adult leaders, meeting almost monthly. Every club's just a little bit different. But the goal is to build toward fair and educate these kiddos about their project, whether that be livestock or sewing or cooking. There's several areas that kids can do. There's really something for everyone, which is what makes 4-H so unique. And then we have ambassadors and or youth program coordinators. Youth program coordinators is something that my sister, Mackenzie Evans, actually came up with. She is our 4-H program coordinator. She's just coming back from maternity leave this week, and so we let her off the hook for this presentation today. But that's it's junior program coordinators, actually. Now that I read that, I should have put junior instead of youth, but it's basically a spin-off of the ambassador program where a couple students, hopefully, ideally we get about 5, but they can come in and actually work side by side with her on certain things. They help us during fair with various tasks, and then they strongly help us with our end of year awards in the fall. And they're usually a great group of kids that are wonderful leaders in the 4-H area. So we are ever growing. I know our fairgrounds, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard, is getting quite small quite quickly, which is a good problem to have. We have 215 and counting Clover Buds and members enrolled in 2025 and 2026, and 42 and counting volunteers. So we're really thrilled with the amount of traction our fair is gaining and the growth that we're seeing every year. I went ahead and put a couple upcoming events on here for you all. Our swine field day is in June 7th, and we're actually holding it in Hermiston at EOTech. They'll get a chance to learn from our swine judge and actually practice on hogs and learn about showmanship skills and what the judge expects, as well as some feeding tips so that they can ensure they do the best that they can with the hog that they've purchased. That is something that's open to come and watch if any of you are interested in coming and seeing what we've got going on. And then Tri-County 4-H Camp is a staple that we all love and enjoy. We work with Gillum and Wheeler counties on that. And I know so many kids really enjoy coming up and experiencing that with us. We usually have 60 to 70 kids from all 3 counties combined come up and spend a couple days in the mountains with us. And like I said in the slide, they just get to learn about nature and camp out in wall tents and eat good food, make new friends, go on hikes. And for some of those kiddos, it's the only immersive experience that they'll have like that. And so we try to make it very memorable and fun for them. Go ahead.
I'll share a little bit about our Juntos program. Juntos means together in Spanish, and this program really tailors Spanish-speaking middle school, high school students and their families. What they do is provide bilingual college and career access support, free evening workshops with dinner included, and sometimes childcare included, so that families can prioritize this. They help with applications for financial aid and scholarship, and do campus days where they'll take entire families, and it's a rotation usually where they go. EOU, community colleges, OSU, but we try not to be biased. We're not trying to recruit folks for OSU in particular. We're just trying to help first generation students have access to those pathways. And then we can move on to open campus. The next slide. Open campus broadly serves all high school juniors, seniors, and recent graduates, and a special support for community college students who are navigating transfer. It's pretty exciting. We just hired Digit McCracken as a statewide CTE coordinator, and they are currently scoping interest for potential apprenticeship programs, industry tours, and trade days. They do trade talks and career walks, and they're looking to expand that into Morrow and Gillum counties. They also set up and coordinate campus visits. They're pretty good at getting grant money to like pay for buses and lodging for students and their families to go visit campuses. And then they do a lot of one-on-one mentoring, advising, and helping kids not only apply through school, but get to school. There's summer melt, an occurrence that happens where students will get accepted into college, but then they get a summer job and kind of miss the emails that take them to the next steps, and they end up not showing up. So our folks are really important in making sure that these kids see it through. And if you're interested, I know that this is an area of growth for Morrow County. If you want to talk more specifically about CTE, you can always reach out to me, or you can reach out to Digit directly, and you can learn more about what we're doing in this realm with the link below. Thanks, Matt.
Okay, any questions?
If I had copies of our budget narrative and our budget to bring you all if I were there. But if you have any questions about any of that, we're happy to answer anything you've got.
Jessica, those weren't included in the commission packets, but I will email them out to them.
Okay.
So they can know. So a very good explanation on what their budget plan is and everything. Chair, if you don't mind, I'd just like to say just a commendation on our 4-H OSU extension service. I don't interact with them on a regular basis. Mackenzie Evans is on our fair board and does a great job. But Jessica, Nicole, and Larry, whenever I reach out to them with a question or clarification, they're always spot on, and they're always helpful and quick to respond. As you know from county college and everything, funding for the county side of 4-H and the extension services kind of goes about in different ways. Some counties adopted a special taxing district for it. Right now, we are under an area where we provide from our general fund. Seems to work out fairly well, and they do a heck of a lot with the monies that we contribute towards them. And I know that most of you interact with people who are specifically impacted by their efforts. So we just wanted to give an opportunity to let them present.
Oh yeah, all the time. They're very, very good for the area.
So one of the things that came to mind is when I saw the $500,000 for the spot spraying apparatuses, is that, those types of programs are something that maybe when the agricultural mitigation fund, money comes out, obviously that'd be something that'd be right up that alley.
I think that would be a great example. Yes.
Larry's at the table on that.
Yes,
He's on the committee.
he is. Yes. So keep Larry as long as you can. That's my only message.
Right.
The good news is Larry's having so much fun. He thought he was going to retire a few years ago, but sometimes he's just having too much fun. He has a new plot drill on the way. I think he's going to stick around for a little while yet.
Okay.
Sounds like it. Something too I wanted to mention, it just popped back into my brain here as I was listening to you. I was going to discuss just briefly that we are working on forming an advisory committee, which is a small committee of county members that we are trying to bring in and just meet twice a year to discuss county needs and how extension can continue to better serve everyone and make sure that we're hitting all areas that are in need. And if there's something we haven't thought of, it's a way of really honing in and looking to community members that are out there all the time. And just to see if there's anything else we can be doing. So I've sent out letters to some people, and I'm hoping to have a meeting in the fall with some folks that agree to be on one more committee and do one more thing. So that is just one more item that I forgot to mention that is in the works with Extension.
I think that's a great idea.
Gus, you should be getting a letter.
Okay, well, now that I've said that, that seems to imply what I'm gonna say to that. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Good having you.
Thank you. Have a good rest
Okay.
of your day.
Right,
You too.
okay.
I don't think you can say no now.
I know, I hadn't gotten a letter and so it seemed safe.
Support that committee 100%.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
That's okay. I'm wearing my beaver tie.
We love it.
Okay, next up is our North Morrow Vector Control 2025 annual report. Greg? The ready for us? Yep. you are.
Yeah, I have some, I ran off the report so you guys could have a copy of that. You can look, you want to get it now and then you can look it over. I
Sure.
wish I need to do the PowerPoint thing, but oh my God. Super busy so far. I don't know if I have enough exactly. You might have to share them.
Oh, I've got it online.
Okay, you got it online. Okay, great.
Read this over the weekend.
Yeah. No, it's been pretty busy. You know, the season seems to have started sooner than normal. With the unseasonably warmer weather that we've been having, and then with occasional rainstorms that come through. But for the most part, we're out there. We're still trying to bring in all of our staff because we do utilize a lot of summer seasonals, and they're not back from college yet, or some that don't know they're going to be working for us when they graduate from high school. But we're working on that right now. We're going to kind of take this in reverse because everything kind of happened at the end of the season, and our season last year was fairly uneventful. Spring was a little bit dicey just because of the water level. They always had the spring runoff. They like to hold that water back, the Corps does, in the spring, and so mainly that's because of fish mitigation and the predation by the American pelican on those fish and on the salmon smolts. And so they like to keep that water level high. So we see an increase in our Aedes and crepitus. That's a mosquito that is in our area that is not a known vector of anything, but they make up for it in their biting. And so we usually see those early on. We have not seen them yet for whatever reason. I have no idea, but they are just kind of starting to show up in our trapping, and we're starting to get some calls from folks out there in our district. But for the most part, it's been not too bad so far. But anyway, last year, the real party started at the end of the season. Our main season was relatively uneventful. The guys were out there. We had our crew back, and they knew what they were doing and everything, and so they did a really fantastic job. In fact, there was high hopes for our season all the way through. And then I keep telling them, I said, guys, August is usually our month that we see mosquito-borne disease. Temperatures are high, and there's abundance of irrigation water still, but that didn't really happen this year. And my guys did a fantastic job controlling those mosquitoes, so that was great, and they were very happy about it until September hit. And then my guys were sitting there noticing that the river level, that John Day Pool, is pretty high out there, and it seems to be higher than normal. And so then we started to make trips across the river over to Patterson Slough and Whitcomb Island and Blaylock Island area and just was checking to see what's going on. Well, what we found was disheartening to us. There was just a huge larval load over there of mosquito larvae in the water and in those low areas. And the other thing too is that because the John Day pool level was so high, it actually flooded areas that hadn't been flooded in a long time. In fact, I haven't seen mosquitoes this bad the whole time I've been here, and I've been here for 30 years. And it was the worst I've ever seen. And the water level in the John Day pool was the highest that I'd seen in a long time. And so what basically happened is that water was flowing back, free flowing back, especially on the Washington side. It was doing the same thing on the Oregon side, but on the Oregon side of the river, we have mosquito control. All right. And so our plan is always at the end of the season is we send the helicopter up and we apply a long-term control that'll last up to 42 days. And we figure that will just coast us right into the fall freeze or whatever. And then we see a big reduction in our adult mosquitoes. But that isn't occurring on the Washington side. And I know I've came in here and told you this before, but there is mosquito control in the state of Washington, but it just doesn't come down this far. And so that whole area across the river from our district, all the way from McNary Dam, all the way down to Blaylock Island is not controlled. And so that water, if the John Day pool is high, that water free flows in, fills up low areas. What we were seeing is not Aedes and crepitus mosquitoes hatching out. We were seeing Aedes vexans mosquitoes, which are secondary vectors of disease. And they're very vicious biters. And they're very hardy, and they can fly up to 30 miles if they want to, right? And especially if they catch the wind currents. Well, it's not 30 miles across to the other side of the river, so they had a relatively easy time coming across. And so what happened was we knew it was going to happen, but we just didn't know exactly when. Usually it's towards the end of September, but it happened on the 13th of September. We started fielding calls from Boardman residents, and then our traps were set that night, on the night of the 13th. And in Boardman, what we do is we set traps routinely in Boardman on one night in that area, and then we shift them over to Erie again the next night. Okay, so they were in Boardman area, and so on the 13th, our traps went from virtually catching nothing. I call it nothing when you catch less than 100 mosquitoes in a trap. And our traps went from that overnight to 3,000 mosquitoes in a trap. That's how many mosquitoes were hatching off coming across. Generally, Aedes mosquitoes don't play that game. They generally hold back this is Mother Nature at work. I don't know the dynamics of it or the biology behind it, but they routinely do not hatch all their eggs off or at once, because they want survival of the species, and so they don't. But there was so much water and so much area that had never seen water for years that some of those eggs that had been laying there dormant for 30 years, they found water, and all those mosquitoes lifted off at once. And so they did. And of course, if we have any northern breezes, they just blow right over, or they just fly over. There's no resistance. We don't really see those southwesterly breezes at that time. When we get into the fall, it starts to get generally cooler, and we start seeing northern breezes. And so they're just pushing them across. And so they were everywhere. And so then, okay, that happened. And so then on the 14th, our traps were set in Oregon. And Patterson Slough might as well be in Oregon. It's so doggone close. And those mosquitoes hatched off of not McCormick Slough, but the Patterson Slough area. And they came across the river, and we were getting 6,000 mosquitoes per trap. And let me, in mosquito world, 3,000 mosquitoes per trap is considered a human health threat. We were getting 6,000, right? And so, and then the next time we trapped in Boardman, this is before we could really in earnest try to do something about the issue, the problem, we had traps in Boardman that were going 5,000. Okay, so then we had a real problem here. I could not answer my phone. I literally could not. It was ringing off the hook. And so I was just letting it go ring, take all the messages, and they were just archived into my emails. And so I could go back and I could read them, right? And generally the rule is with me is I returned every call, every single one, and I could not do it. There was just no way. And so the plan was we have a contingency plan. So the contingency plan was to call our contingency aerial fixed wing applicator, and he comes out of Utah. It's Vector Disease International, and they flew their plane up here. And I told him, I said, how big a plane do you have? I mean, gallon wise, how much material can you hold? And he said, well, our big plane is 90-gallon plane. I said, send it up if it's available, because we're going to need all 90 gallons. Because we actually flew 15,360 acres on the night of the 19th. Okay, so basically we got them up here. I got all the product ordered, and it was here. Versaris is a company that we deal with, and they got that company, and we got that material to us right away. And so we trucked up to the West Richland Airport, and we loaded the plane. And we could have actually used a plane that would have held 120 gallons, to tell you the truth, because we didn't get to do our whole district, and we had to kind of like shrink our spray block a little bit. And so some of those southern parts of our district didn't get hit, and we had to take out the McCormick Slough, or the Umatilla National Wildlife Refuge, because when you're dealing with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, they don't do anything like that. And so we knew that they were going to have to be taken out of the spray block. So that was 2,800 acres out of the spray block. And at that time, McCormick Slough really wasn't producing any mosquitoes, because we flew them too, with our larvicide. So they were under the same 42-day control. But again, the Washington side was the culprit. And so we flew on the 19th. And we set out our mortality traps. So what we generally do is when we do an adulticide mission like that, we do the mission, and then an hour later we go out with our mortality traps, and we have crew that goes out and sets traps all throughout the district. And then we bring those traps, we go and collect those traps just right before it gets daylight. We bring them in, and so then we observe these traps. So my gals that do all of the taxidermy work and everything like that, taxonomy work, excuse me. Taxidermy work, that'd be pretty hard on a mosquito. But anyway, taxonomy, they have to visually observe the traps, and if there's anything flying around in there, that acts as a ding towards our mortality percentage. But as it turned out with our mortality, and you can see on this report that there's a pile of mosquitoes here. Those are all Aedes vexans mosquitoes. We went from counting the mosquitoes individually. That's what we do usually. They go in there and they count every mosquitoes, and they separate them according to species. And then they put them in vials, and they send them off to OSU Vet Diagnostic Lab for testing. And so there was no way that we could do that with this. And so we ended up weighing our mosquitoes and then placing them on a grid pattern and counting the mosquitoes that way. Okay, so it was interesting, because this is what they usually do in Florida on a routine basis, and here we are doing that, right? And so anyway, we did our spray mission. Those guys did a really good job, and we had and our mortality trapping came back with a 98% mortality. It went from bad to not bad. And then on the 23rd of September, well, the wind shifted and back they come, so we had mosquitoes again. Well, by that time, and our traps, we were not seeing the load that we had saw before we flew. And so I just made a decision and said, no, we're not going to bring the plane back. Because if the plane's flying and spraying, dollar bills are coming out. I mean, you can I see that, you know, because I'm the bean counter. And so that's a lot of money that's being expended. So I said, I think that we can handle it with our ground units. And so that's what we did. But prior to that, prior to flying that plane, we couldn't do it with our ground units. There was no way. And so we were just, so we needed to have that contingency contractor. Well, anyway, it turned out successful. We did have a reinfestation, but it wasn't on the scale as it was at the beginning. And so that was good. We could handle it with our trucks. And then eventually the season, you know, we started getting cooler weather, and those mosquitoes, you know, they went to bed. Now, disease wise, we had, during all this chaos, we had one of our traps at one of our pools test positive to West Nile virus. And I'm telling you, when you have a kabillion 80s Vexans out there and your phone's ringing off the hook, you don't even care about that pool. And I never thought that I'd ever say that, but it was one that we had in south of Oregon here. But by that time, those Culex tarsalis mosquitoes and Pepin's mosquitoes that transmit that virus, they're already going away because of the cooler temperatures. And so we were mostly concerned about that 80s Vexans mosquito. Well, right now the river level is high. And so we haven't experienced the mosquitoes yet. So I don't know if this is kind of a theory, or we're trying to figure it out. Did those eggs all hatch off so much that we're seeing less of a load for this spring, and possibly will we see less of a mosquito hatch during our season in 2026? I don't know that. It's a guessing game. It's just something that we're going to have to see if we are going to see that. I could be totally wrong. If the John Day pool rises back up again, you know, in the fall, and we could have the same thing all over again. I don't know. But the one thing that we noticed is that the Corps of Engineers has been raising the water level in the fall. They used to raise it October 1. Now they're raising it September 1. And that's a huge difference when it comes to mosquito control. And so on the 8th of June, I'm going to be meeting with the Benton County manager, the West Umatilla manager, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Mid-Columbia Complex manager, and also a representative from the EPA. The only group that's not going to be there, agency, is the Corps of Engineers, which is unfortunate. But we think we might try to get them on at the table later on. We're gonna have this meeting, and maybe the Coral show. I don't know, but if they don't, then we're gonna try to set up a meeting with the Corps of Engineers and with the vector districts that are involved with the Corps and our mosquito issues. And so Benton County, they don't have any Corps land in their district. But West Umatilla and myself, we do, and there's other districts that do too. So we're going to try to get all those guys at the table. This meeting was called because I kind of kicked the sleeping dog a little bit with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. West Umatilla was afraid of my letter that I sent to the Corps of Engineers. They wanted to review it, and so right now it's being held back. Because they don't want me to kick the sleeping dog, because there could be way more repercussions if the Corps doesn't particularly if they're not. I don't know. I want to just put all the cards out on the table, you know, but I can understand that, because there's like West Umatilla had to go through a whole different MPDS process, and it was a big undertaking. It cost them a lot of money. And so I guess I can understand that. So I have to be kind of a team player with the rest of my mosquito control districts. And we're gonna see what happens this fall with these mosquitoes. Are we gonna see this again? If we see it again, then we got to do something, you know, because it was ridiculous. And like I said, mosquitoes at that level are a human health threat. And so and that's one thing I got to say about, you know, about our county. We have mosquito control. If we hadn't had organized mosquito control, nothing would have happened. And things could have been a lot worse. You know, certain people are highly allergic to mosquito bites. And in sheer numbers, they are a human health threat, even though, like Aedes vexans is a secondary vector of disease. And the likelihood is probably unlikely, but in those kind of numbers, yes, it could. And we could see a possibility of a reoccurrence of Western equine encephalitis. And that one's very real because that's how vector control, our district, got started in the first place, was because of the high incidence of Western equine encephalitis in our district. It was mainly in horses, but we've also had some folks that if you went back, if the medical community would have followed that a little bit closer, they would have probably found that some of the folks in our district or our county actually had Western equine encephalitis, and possibly some people might have actually passed because of Western equine encephalitis. And so we don't want to see a resurgence of that. And that Aedes vexans mosquito, even though I said it's a secondary vector, it's a vector of that disease. I don't really have anything else, just to say that I'm on the invasive Aedes task force. We formed that with the Oregon Mosquito and Vector Control Association. And I actually thought, well, we're never going to, I'm never going to see like this mosquito species, Aedes aegypti, that just got found out in Jackson County last year. And I go, we're never going to see it up here. Well, last year, guess where it showed up? It showed up in Jackson County again, and then it showed up in Canyon County, Idaho. So how did it get there? Well, it wasn't born and raised there, right? It was transported there. And actually, the box stores, that have the lucky bamboo plants and that kind of stuff, that's how it got there. Because that particular mosquito is a container breeder, and it's also known as the yellow fever mosquito. If you ever want to see what kind of damage or mortality that yellow fever can do, go to Savannah, Georgia, and go to their cemetery there. There's a period of time where almost every grave there it was at that particular period of time, and it was caused by yellow fever, it was yellow fever, and it was caused because of transmission by Aedes aegypti. So we take that mosquito very seriously. So we're keeping tabs on it, and we just don't want it to spread. And it did make its southern migration all the way up through California to the southern borders of Oregon. So we're just keeping tabs on it, making sure that we don't see any more advanced migration of that mosquito up to the north. And we still have to determine whether our seasons that we have, if it's would stop that mosquito. We don't know. But otherwise, you guys, it's going to be business as usual. The only new thing that we have going on right now at North Morrow is we have a capital project that's going to be happening. In fact, it is happening. And we're working with the Port of Morrow and with special districts. And we have to build a new facility. We have to relocate. We have to move our facility from where we're at to a new location. The Port of Morrow is graciously deeded 3 acres to us. And so we're actually in the process. Their engineers did all the groundwork with the planning and everything, with the engineered plans. Special districts is working with me on the financial end of it and also the planning part of it. In fact, I never knew that it would get so last minute on some of this stuff. I have a budget committee meeting tonight, and I just received the budget documents from David Olbrich with special districts this morning. And so I've got to go back and do my budget and everything so that I include those new figures that he has put into the budget. So, but anyway, we got that. It's exciting. It's and what we've done is I use the gun safe analogy with this facility. You always, if you're going to go buy a gun safe, you always buy a bigger gun safe than what you need. And so this district, that's the analogy that I'm using with this facility. We're building it so we have room to grow. And so when we get to that point and we start breaking ground and stuff, if any of you guys want to see what we're doing and you want to see the schematics of the building project itself. I would be more than willing to share that with you. And I really thankful that the Port of Morrow has taken it upon themselves to help us out in that way, because it does cut costs and everything for us. And we're working with Banner Bank, and Special Districts is helping us out with that avenue as well. So anyway, that's where we're at right now. And I really appreciate you having me come in here, and I'll let you guys know next year what happened in 2026.
So where is your new home gonna be?
It's gonna be right, okay, you guys know where Oregon Hay is at?
Yep.
Okay, so you just cross over the road there, and we're gonna be in that little industrial park right there. Pacific Ethanol is right there, and yeah, we're just right there. They just honed us out a 3-acre piece of ground. We're gonna have water and sewer right there. So we've never had that before. We've always had a drain field, and so it's gonna be interesting to have. So what I've done is that and the other thing, we've never had an adequate chemical building, right, to house our product. And so we've always had to take our products in like 2 different or 3 different shipments. Well, you get the best deals if you take the early bird shipments, and we never had the capacity to do that. We're gonna have the capacity now to be able to. They can drive that truck in there, and they can unload the product early on this year. So North Morrow Vector Control can actually take advantage of some of these early bird pricing and stuff. So we're pretty excited about that. It's gonna, from what I understand, from the time that we break ground, it's gonna take a year. And we still don't know how much the project's gonna cost. Bids are out. They put the bids out. They've been out for 2 weeks, and the port said that that we have been getting a lot of interest in that project. So anyway, there we are. It kind of scares me a little bit, but you know what? It's exciting, to do this, and I'm glad that it's not going to be very much longer, you guys, before I am going to be riding off into the sunset. I'm kind of like Larry Lucher. I just kind of like hanging out, until until we get everything established and everything. Because I look at it like this: I'm not going anywhere. I live in the Oregon area, and I want to make sure that the mosquito control program is in good hands before I leave, right? So, all righty, guys. Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for
Thank
coming.
you.
You betcha. All right.
One
Oh,
comment, if it's okay to Chair. Just wanted to say, in acknowledgement of good partnership, shared services, our parks groups down in OHV and that have been having issues with mosquitoes. And while they're a North County taxing district and really couldn't come down because of the distance and that, Vector Control provided some materials to allow us to do some spraying down in the camps, just to make it a little bit more pleasant down in our parks. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that in a public setting, saying thank you to the Vector Control helping that. While I couldn't get down there, it's been very appreciated, them just taking that into effect for us.
Yeah, no, thank you. And you just reminded me, we donated 2 HD25 electric foggers, or battery powered foggers, to the OHV park down there. And one I acquired from Union County Mosquito Control because they were no longer using it, and it's a good unit. And then our unit that we have in our fleet, we retired it this year, and we bought all new foggers this year. So we've got a fleet of 4 foggers that can go out when we need to do our ULV spraying at night. So anyway, and then I'm always looking for products and stuff. And Clackamas County had products that they were no longer going to use. They changed managers, and they were going to go a different route. And the products were viable, and it was just an interagency exchange. And so we've been kind of doing that same thing with the OHV park, so that they kind of curbs costs for them. It didn't cost us anything, and we just want to see good, mosquito control down there, and so that the folks that are at the OHV park can enjoy their quality of life too. So
Thank you.
You betcha. All righty. Well, thank you guys for having me.
Look forward to a report with less mosquitoes next
Oh,
year.
God, I'm telling you, I'm.
Not
looking
as much as
forward
I
to a
do.
difference. I am. Well, Jeff kind of lives, yeah, both of us kind of live in the gun side of all those mosquitoes, so yeah. All right, guys, we'll see you later.
All right, see you.
Thanks, Greg.
Okay, next item up is our six E. Want to change from Morrow County at-large position for Northeast Area Commission on Transportation, NEAC.
Commission, we have a request for change of appointment for the at-large committee appointment for Northeast Area Commission on Transportation. That position has been filled by Mark Patton of the Port of Morrow, with an alternate of Jacob Kane. With workload in that, they've requested to release Mark Patton with appreciation and have Jacob act as the voting member, and Tim Helbig, who is their senior civil engineer, act as the alternate. Because this is NEAC and Commissioner Winholtz is involved with it, I reached out to him to see if you had any questions or reservations. He reported that he did not. So we're asking for a motion to acknowledge the reappointment, the release of Mark Patton, appoint Jacob Kane as the at-large voting member, Tim Helbig as the alternate, and if the Board of Commission approves that, I will forward that on to NEAC for their acknowledgement and use.
Okay, any questions? Not.
So I'll make the motion to release Mark Patton with appreciation as the Morrow County at-large voting member for the Northeast Area Commission on Transportation, and appoint Jacob Kane as Morrow County at-large voting member with Tim Helbig as the alternate.
I second.
Seconded. Further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried. Okay, that concludes our business items. Next up, correspondence. Val, you got anything?
No correspondence.
Commissioner reports. Jeff, you got anything? Just kind of work our way down this way.
So yesterday, Matt and I met with the port representatives for coming up with a SIP agreement committee but I think we've got the basic framework, and it's going to be Matt and Lisa putting it into a document. But the consensus moving out of that is to have a 4-member, we're not going to call it a board. We're not sure what it will be called at this point.
Team? Can we be a team?
We threw out task force just for negotiating.
Okay, task force, okay.
And,
More official, I suppose.
so it'd be one elected from each body and the executive administrator, director, whatever their title may be, to be as the voting members on it. And there was talk of having Mike Gorman as the assessor as an ex officio there to provide any expertise, technical expertise, I guess.
Okay.
And that's pretty much the gist of it when you say Matt.
Yes. And so this doesn't establish a board, it just establishes a team that the two entities will agree to work. If negotiations go underway, they get somewhere, there's a tentative agreement, they take it to the port, they bring it to the county, and then they allow it to the county to take care of all the notifications. The public hearing is outlined in ORS.
With the idea being, the tentative agreement that since there's going to be a representative from each body, that hopefully that it's agreeable, that each body's representative is representing the desire of the whole. So it should be, for lack of a better term, a rubber stamp to move forward with it. The idea of the small body is to make it nimble and agile to be able to meet, and if it's small enough body and if it's named the right thing, then it doesn't have to meet public meeting notice and requirements like that. So that if you need a meeting today and you need one tomorrow,
You can just do it.
you can just do it.
Yeah.
And trying to coordinate calendars and everything else to get people there. So that's the report I have on that. But beyond that, I don't have much else.
I don't have anything. Anything?
Yeah, so just the Rural Energy Academy's been brought up several times. We're about to graduate from it. I don't know if we get any certificates or anything like that. But part of it is that they're asking everybody, each county that was a participant, to give a presentation, and we'll be doing that next week. And then if you guys want to see it, I'd be happy to do. It'd be really short. to just give a presentation to the board about what the planning department and I and Valerie learned through this.
No, I'd like to.
Okay, all right, I'll plan on that. And then my only other thing is a personal note. Sammy and I are expecting in November. So,
Congratulations.
yes.
Well, that kind of reminds me, is my son Chris, his family has a new baby,
Mhm.
so. a
Okay.
little girl.
I thought you were gonna make an announcement.
He's gonna be a grandpa.
And Matt has a
You
new.
got a little
got
grandson.
a little grandson,
Yeah.
Logan.
2 more before the end of the year.
Yeah.
We're populating.
Yeah, good for you. Yeah,
Good for Morrow County and help grow the population.
There you go.
okay,
Get that water to South End.
okay. That concludes that part of it. I'm gonna call recess and then come back and we're gonna go into executive session. Okay, call the meeting of Morrow County Commission back to order, and now we're gonna go into executive session. Under ORS 192-66028, which allows the commission to meet in executive session to consider employment of a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent. Okay, do we have anybody, who's gonna be on, is somebody gonna be on Zoom?
There will be nobody calling in to participate. It's just here. locally.
Just here, okay, so the media will not be allowed to stay on, so I don't think there's any media on there anyway.
Looks like Andrea's in, so.
Oh, is she? Okay. So,
Yeah, that's a little weird.
we're gonna have to cut everybody loose there.
Okay.
Go for it.
So did you read the ORS, Dave?
I read this part, yeah. This says representative of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed
But
to.
under, or maybe I missed it. Did you read what ORS?
192.
Yeah, he did.
Okay, sorry.
All right, we're back into open session. And we have 2 motions. You're gonna make.
I move to have District Attorney Justin Nelson offer a position to applicant as Deputy District Attorney at grade 30, step 12.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, motion carried. Okay.
I move to hire Deputy Sheriff Advanced at grade 22 at step 11.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign, motion carried. Okay. Is that it? Anything else? Okay, we'll call the meeting adjourned. Is it time for lunch?